What if I told you that all that agonizing autumn labor, the back-breaking digging, the sore muscles and the hours wasted turning over the soil, is based on a huge misconception? What if there's a different way? Today, I'm going to show you how to prepare the perfect garden bed for late fall or winter sowing in just 15 minutes. Yes, you heard that right, 15 minutes. And this method isn't just fast. It's rooted in the principles of natural, no-dig gardening, and it guarantees you a lush, healthy harvest next spring, even if you consider yourself the world's laziest gardener. We are going to completely debunk the myth that you need deep fall tilling. By the way, drop a comment right now and tell me how many hours you usually spend on your autumn garden prep. I guarantee that after watching this video, those numbers are going to change drastically. Let's get started. Before we grab our tools, let's quickly talk about why we bother with late fall sowing in the first place. It's simple. It's our secret weapon in the race for the earliest harvest. Seeds sown in the fall undergo natural stratification. They get hardened by the winter cold, and as soon as the snow melts and that first warm sun hits, they jump right out of the ground. These plants grow up stronger, healthier, and more disease-resistant. They maximize the critical spring moisture before the summer heat has a chance to dry out the soil. The payoff? You get fresh carrots or greens 2 to 3 weeks before your neighbours do. The traditional approach to preparing these beds involves deep digging and turning over the soil, known as inversion tilling. We've been taught this for years, but modern agronomy is clear. This is actually harmful. Tilling destroys the essential structure of the soil, kills the earthworms, and annihilates the millions of beneficial microorganisms that are actually responsible for creating fertility. Our method is the complete opposite. We are going to work in harmony with nature, not wage war against it. Okay, the first step, and it's a quick one, is choosing the perfect location. Don't underestimate this. It accounts for half your overall success. For successful late fall or winter sowing, we need a garden bed that receives plenty of direct sunlight. Remember that the spring sun is still low on the horizon, so make sure your spot isn't going to be shaded by buildings, fences, or tall trees. Ideally, this should be the sunniest location on your entire property. The second crucial factor is excellent drainage. The bed needs to be slightly raised or have a gentle slope, so that spring meltwater doesn't turn the area into a marsh. If seeds end up sitting in an icy puddle, they will simply rot. A good practical tip: walk around your yard and note where the snow melts earliest. That spot is usually your ideal candidate. And finally, you must remember what grew in this spot this past summer. Crop rotation is non-negotiable. Do not sow carrots after carrots or any leafy greens after their close vegetable relatives. The best preceding crops are heavy feeders like potatoes, cucumbers, tomatoes, or cabbage. Once you've identified the perfect spot, we move on to step 2, a quick but thorough cleaning of the surface. Our goal is to remove anything that could hinder germination or become a breeding ground for pests and diseases. Grab your rake or a small hoe and clear out all the plant debris, old stalks, fallen leaves, and any general litter. Pay special attention to the weeds. We need to completely uproot all perennial weeds, like quackgrass or dandelions. If you leave their roots in the soil, they will wake up before your cultivated plants in the spring and start stealing valuable nutrients and light. Annual weeds, on the other hand, can simply be cut off at the soil line. You don't need to dig up the entire bed hunting for every rootlet. Just skimming the surface is enough. This entire clearing process should only take you 3 or 4 minutes. Healthy plant matter that you collect can be safely sent straight to your compost pile. However, if you spot any signs of disease, for instance late blight on tomato remnants, it is far better to burn that debris. This prevents contamination of both your compost and the surrounding soil. Now that our garden bed is as clean as a freshly prepped canvas, it's time to define its shape. This is step 3, and it's a quick one, marking out the area and forming the borders. Why do we do this? First, clear boundaries simply look neat and professional. Secondly, and this is the main reason, low edges around the perimeter of the bed prevent runoff. They stop melting snow and heavy spring rains from washing away the fertile topsoil and our precious future seeds with it. They also help keep the mulch in place, which we'll discuss later. You don't need any complex construction here. You can simply take a hoe or a rake and mound up small earthen borders, about 10 to 15 centimetres high, all the way around the perimeter of your new bed. If you happen to have old lumber, slate, or dedicated raised bed kits, that's even better. It will certainly be a more permanent solution. But for our quick, express method, simple earthen borders will work perfectly fine. Next, let's talk size. The ideal width for a garden bed is between 80 centimetres and 1 metre, roughly 30 to 40 inches. This ensures you can easily reach the centre from either side without ever having to step on the soil itself. And now we get to the most crucial, game-changing step, the one that will save you a ton of time and effort. Forget the shovel. Stage 4 is all about light, shallow surface cultivation. We are not going to turn the soil upside down. Our job is simply to lightly break up the top layer, no deeper than 5 to 7 centimetres, or roughly 2 to 3 inches. The Fokin hoe, or a similar specialised hand cultivator, is perfect for this. If you don't have one, you can use a standard hand tiller, a sharp hoe, or even a regular garden fork. But remember, you are loosening the soil, not digging. Why the strict depth limit? Because the soil is teeming with life. The upper layer is home to aerobic bacteria, which need oxygen to survive. Deeper down, you find anaerobic bacteria, and oxygen is fatal to them. When you turn the soil over, you flip their worlds upside down, and most of them die off. Yet, these tiny organisms are the ones responsible for creating truly fertile soil. Light tilling preserves this complex ecosystem. It improves air and moisture access to the roots without disturbing the vital soil structure. Simply walk your tool across the entire bed, breaking up any clumps and making the earth soft and airy. Think of it like gently combing your hair, not giving it a buzz cut. Once we've invigorated our soil with a little light loosening, we move on to the fifth, and arguably the most satisfying step, feeding the soil. Autumn is the perfect time to stock the ground with everything it needs for the upcoming season. The main ingredient in our autumn soil recipe is, naturally, compost. You need well-cured, crumbly compost, the kind that smells like a forest floor, not waste. Compost doesn't just provide nutrition, it dramatically improves soil structure, making it more friable and significantly increasing its water-holding capacity. Spread the compost evenly over the surface of the garden bed in a layer about 2 to 3 centimetres deep. This works out to roughly 1 to 2 buckets per square metre. The crucial thing is, do not bury it, just spread it across the top. Nutrients will naturally penetrate the required depth thanks to rain and melting snow, and the earthworms will do all the necessary mixing for you. This is yet another principle of the lazy garden philosophy, allowing nature to work on our behalf. If you don't have compost, you can use store-bought vermicompost or well-rotted aged manure, but absolutely avoid fresh manure. It can burn delicate young roots come springtime. In addition to organic matter, it's highly beneficial to apply certain mineral supplements in the fall. These are slow-release additives that will dissolve gradually, ensuring your plants receive sustained feeding in the long term. Our second essential ingredient is wood ash. This is a wonderful source of potassium, phosphorus, calcium, and a whole host of micronutrients. Potassium, in particular, is vital for boosting your plant's future winter hardiness. Furthermore, ash slightly sweetens the soil by raising the pH level, which is a major benefit for most common garden vegetables. Ensure you only use ash derived from burning clean, untreated wood or natural plant residue. Absolutely no plastics or trash whatsoever. The application rate is simple. Aim for approximately 1 cup per square metre. Just lightly dust it evenly across the surface of the garden bed, right on top of your existing compost. But heed this warning. Don't overdo it. Too much ash can actually cause significant damage. It's like salt in soup. A little enhances flavour, but too much ruins the whole meal. Wood ash is slow-acting. It doesn't dissolve instantly. This is perfect because by the time spring arrives, it will have properly worked its way into the soil, leaving the environment perfectly balanced and nutrient-rich for your young plants to get the best possible start. If you're aiming for maximum results, there's one more secret ingredient you should know about. That ingredient is phosphorus and potassium fertilizer, and pay close attention. It must be PK only, no nitrogen allowed. We absolutely don't want nitrogen in the fall, because it encourages lush foliage growth when plants should be hardening off and getting ready for winter. Phosphorus builds a powerful root system, while potassium, as we've mentioned, is critical for winter hardiness and frost resistance. You have a couple of options here. You can use individual components like superphosphate and potassium sulfate, applying the precise dose listed on the package instructions. Alternatively, look for a ready-made specialised blend labelled Autumn or Full Formula. These formulas usually contain only trace amounts of nitrogen, offering the perfect balance of P and K. Spread the granules evenly over the soil surface, combining them with wood ash and compost. And I want to stress this again, there is absolutely no need to dig anything in. Just leave it all sitting right on top. This entire feeding process should take you less than 5 minutes, but by doing it, you'll be setting up a rich, 5-star, nutrient buffet for your plants that will last them all the way through the next spring. Once we've fed the garden bed, the next step is to gently mix all the applied amendments into the top layer of soil. This is step 6, and thankfully, it doesn't require much effort either. Grab a rake and run it lightly, without pressing down, over the entire surface. Our goal here is mixing, not digging deeply. Imagine you're dusting a cake with powdered sugar, and you're just gently distributing it across the frosting. Keep the working depth to the same 3 to 5 centimetres, no deeper than that. This action ensures that the compost, ash, and mineral fertilizers are evenly distributed throughout the top, most active layer of the soil. This allows them to start working faster, creating a uniform, nutrient-rich environment for your future seeds. This approach maintains all the benefits of the no-dig method. We avoid disturbing the soil structure and its inhabitants, while still guaranteeing an even spread of nutrients. This step takes literally only 2 minutes, but it significantly boosts the effectiveness of the feeding process. Now that the garden bed is fully prepared and enriched with nutrients, we move on to the second to last step, step 7. This step is crucial, especially for late season or winter planting. We need to prepare the seed furrows ahead of time. Why do this now instead of waiting until spring? First, in the fall, the soil is still soft and manageable. In the spring, the ground can be either frozen solid or too wet. Second, winter weather will compact the soil in the furrows. This provides a firm seedbed which ensures better soil contact and promotes more uniform germination. Grab a shovel handle, a board, or a specialised garden marker and use it to create your furrows, paying close attention to the required depth and spacing. For example, carrot furrows should be about 2 to 3 centimetres deep, while garlic requires 5 to 7 centimetres. Make the distance between the rows slightly wider than you would for spring planting to give your plants a little extra space. Once the furrows are done, leave the bed exactly as it is. We are not planting anything right now. Sowing will happen later, once the ground has frozen, which prevents the seeds from sprouting prematurely in the fall. For now, we've simply prepared their little beds. And here it is, the grand finale, the 8th and final chord in our 15-minute symphony of bed preparation, mulching. Never leave your prepared soil exposed for the winter. That's like stepping out on a freezing day without a hat. Mulch is the protective blanket for our soil. It shields the ground from freezing solid, prevents erosion caused by wind, rain and melting snow, and guards against weathering. Crucially, a layer of mulch helps the soil retain its loose, crumbly structure. Beneath it, beneficial microorganisms and earthworms continue their essential work undisturbed. When spring arrives, this protected ground won't develop a hard crust. It will remain moist, pliable, and full of life. You have several excellent choices for mulching material: fallen leaves from healthy trees, straw, grass clippings, make sure they are seed-free, peat moss, or even well-aged compost. Evenly distribute your chosen material across the entire bed surface, including any furrows or pathways, aiming for a layer depth of 5 to 10 centimetres. That's about 2 to 4 inches. Don't worry about the seedlings. In the spring, new growth will easily push through the loose layer of leaves or straw. This crucial final step is the guarantee of healthy soil and the promise of a bountiful harvest next year. Let's revisit site selection, but this time let's look at the practical logistics. Focus on the setup of your winter garden. Your full sown bed needs to be easily accessible first thing in the spring. Ideally, it should be close to the house or near the main path. Picture this: snowdrifts might still be piled up, but you need quick access to that bed, perhaps to cover it with plastic sheeting to speed up germination. If it's tucked away in a distant, hard-to-reach corner of your plot, that's just going to create unnecessary hassle. You also need to assess wind exposure. The bed should be shielded from harsh winter winds that can strip away the protective snow cover, leaving the soil exposed and vulnerable to deep freezing. A thick hedge, a north-facing wall of the house, or a solid fence makes for excellent protection. Taking a few extra minutes for this type of strategic thinking in the fall will save you time and headaches come spring. This isn't just a random patch of dirt. This is your strategic staging ground for harvesting the very first crops of the new season. Let's take a closer look at the process of cleaning up your garden beds. Gardeners often make the mistake of leaving tiny weed roots behind, assuming the winter frost will kill them off. Unfortunately, many weeds, especially perennial varieties, are incredibly resilient. Their root systems and rhizomes survive perfectly well in the soil, and come spring, they get a powerful head start, quickly overtaking your desirable crops. That's why, when you pull weeds, you need to ensure you remove as much of the root system as possible. For this, it's helpful to use a dedicated weed puller, or a simple, narrow hand trowel. Don't hesitate to bend down and meticulously dig out the entire root of nuisance weeds, like quackgrass. When it comes to the leftover foliage from your harvest, there are further distinctions to be made. For instance, the tops of root vegetables such as carrots or beets can be chopped up and left right on the bed. This organic material will quickly decompose, acting as an excellent soil amendment and natural fertilizer. However, residues from the nightshade family, like tomatoes and potatoes, or brassicas such as cabbage, should be removed completely. These leftovers frequently harbour pathogens specific to those plant families, increasing the risk of disease in the following season. Let's dive deeper into the topic of soil aeration and loosening. Why is the ideal depth specifically 5 to 7 centimetres, or roughly 2 to 3 inches? This depth is optimal for most seeds that we sow before winter. Tilling too deeply is pointless because the seeds will only remain in the top layer anyway. Tilling too shallowly, however, might not be enough to break up the surface crust and ensure adequate air circulation. The tool you use also plays a major role. The Fokins flat cutter, or Fokin tiller, is brilliant because it doesn't just loosen the soil. It undercuts the roots of weeds at a precise depth, moving parallel to the soil surface. This technique minimally disturbs the natural soil horizons. If you are using a garden fork, your technique should be as follows. Insert the fork vertically into the ground and gently rock it back and forth. This lifts the soil without actually turning it over. This action creates essential cracks and channels for air and water, without disrupting the overall structure. After loosening the soil this way, the ground becomes sponge-like, ready to absorb moisture and breathe, which is the perfect healthy start for any crop. Let's talk about compost in more detail. Compost quality is truly the key to success. Proper, mature compost should be a uniform, dark, and crumbly material, with that signature, pleasant, earthy smell, like fresh soil after a spring rain. It shouldn't contain any recognisable undecomposed scraps, viable weed seeds, or any foul odour. If your compost hasn't fully cured, it's best to set it aside until spring, or use it exclusively for layering into a hot or raised bed. Using partially decomposed organic matter can actually cause more harm than good. As this material continues to break down in the soil, the microorganisms responsible for that process will directly compete with your plants for essential nutrients, especially nitrogen. Furthermore, Immature compost can often harbour harmful pathogens. Therefore, if you are at all unsure about the quality of your homemade batch, it's much safer to purchase a pre-made product from a local garden centre. This guarantees that you're introducing only benefits into your soil, avoiding potential problems entirely. Ultimately, applying high-quality finished compost is a long-term investment in the overall health and fertility of your land. There is a common misconception that you should load up the soil with as much fertilizer as possible in the fall to feed it for the entire year. That's not exactly right. Balance is key. While we've previously discussed the potential harm caused by excess nitrogen, it's worth mentioning the downside of overdoing other elements as well. For instance, applying too much wood ash to alkaline soils can dramatically raise the pH level. This can effectively lock up vital micronutrients such as iron, making them unavailable to your plants. So, if you haven't tested your soil pH, use wood ash sparingly. The same rule applies to phosphorus. Too much of it can inhibit the absorption of zinc and copper. Our guiding principle is simple. It's always better to slightly underfeed than to overfeed. This is why organic fertilizers, like compost, are so great. It's very difficult to overdo them. They release nutrients slowly and naturally, feeding the plants exactly when they need it. If you are ever in doubt, focus on high-quality organic matter and treat synthetic or mineral fertilizers purely as a supplement, ensuring you follow the instructions strictly. Now let's get back to creating those planting furrows. While it seems straightforward, this step actually involves a few clever tricks. The direction you run the rows also makes a big difference. If your garden bed is on a slope, always run your furrows perpendicular to the incline. This effectively creates mini terraces that help capture rainwater and prevent crucial topsoil from washing away. If your bed is on level ground, the ideal direction is north to south. This ensures that the plants receive uniform sunlight throughout the day and minimises self-shading. Here's another pro tip. Once you've dug your trenches, use the edge of a board to lightly firm up the bottom of the furrow. This creates what growers call a firm seed bed. When seeds land on this compacted base, they achieve optimal seed-to-soil contact, which is absolutely critical for rapid water absorption and successful germination. Think of it this way. You're placing the seed not on a loose feather pillow, but on a firm, springy mattress. It needs that stability to thrive. These small details require virtually no extra time, yet they drastically improve your final yield and ensure a strong, uniform emergence of seedlings come springtime. Let's take a closer look at the materials we can use for mulching. Fallen leaves are arguably the most accessible and completely free option. Leaves from fruit trees, maple and birch, are generally the best choice. However, oak or walnut leaves contain high levels of tannins which can inhibit plant growth. For these, it's highly recommended to compost them first. Straw is a fantastic material. It's light, airy, provides excellent frost protection, and locks in moisture. Just be careful, because rodents like to nest in it. Mowed and slightly dried grass clippings are another wonderful option, especially since they are rich in nitrogen. The crucial point here is ensuring the grass is free of weed seeds. Otherwise, come spring, you'll end up with a dense weed patch instead of a vegetable harvest. Peat moss is effective at acidifying the soil, which is beneficial for certain plants. However, it tends to compact easily and can form a hard crust. The truly ideal scenario, though, is using a mixed mulch approach. For instance, you could lay down a base layer of leaves and then top it with a light sprinkling of compost. This combination creates a multi-layered, breathable, and highly nutritious blanket for your garden bed. When exactly should you perform dormant or fall sowing? We've prepared the garden bed and cut the furrows, but the seeds are still resting in the packet. The most crucial rule is this. You must sow into frozen or significantly chilled ground. Air temperatures should be consistently hovering around freezing point, 0 degrees Celsius, during the day and dropping below freezing overnight. If you plant too early while the weather is still warm, the seeds might germinate and the first hard frost will kill them off immediately. We want them to remain dormant in the soil all winter, to swell, become cold hardened, but absolutely not to sprout. So don't rush the process. wait for a solid, consistent freeze. This is typically late October or November, depending on your local climate. In addition to preparing the bed, you also need to prepare some dry soil or sand to cover the rows. When it's finally time to sow, the soil in your garden bed will already be frozen, making it impossible to use for filling the furrows. Simply fill a bucket with dry soil and store it somewhere protected from freezing, like a shed or garage. This simple preparatory step will save you a lot of headache and stress on planting day. What crops are perfect for successful fall or winter sowing? Look primarily for plants that are very cold hardy, have small seeds, or specifically require cold stratification to germinate. The undisputed champions in the vegetable category are carrots, especially early varieties, beets and parsnips. You'll also have great success with various greens including dill, parsley, cilantro, spinach, leaf lettuce and arugula. Their seeds handle the harsh winter cold well and provide the very first flush of fresh, essential vitamins in early spring. Don't forget to plant winter garlic and onion sets before the ground freezes. This is a classic fall planting technique that consistently yields outstanding results. When it comes to flowers, try sowing calendula, cosmos, California poppies, eschscholzia, lavaterra, delphinium, and columbine, aquilegia. They will benefit from natural cold stratification and emerge strong and healthy in the spring. Crucially, when practicing winter sowing, you must increase your seeding rate by approximately 30 to 50% compared to spring planting. This is essential to compensate for potential losses caused by severe winter weather. Let's quickly recap our 15-minute marathon. What did we do? First, we chose the perfect spot, sunny and dry. Second, we quickly cleared it of weeds and debris. Third, we marked out the boundaries for the planting bed. Fourth, and this is the most important part, we loosened the topsoil without deep digging, preserving the soil structure and its life. Fifth, we added organic and mineral fertilizers to build up a nutrient supply. Sixth, we lightly mixed all the components using a rake. Seventh, we created neat rows or furrows for our future planting. And eighth, we covered our bed with a warm blanket of mulch. All these steps combined took us no more than 15 minutes. We didn't break a sweat or strain our backs, yet we accomplished far more for our future harvest than if we had spent half a day on pointless, deep digging. We acted not as conquerors, but as wise gardeners who help nature instead of hindering it. That is the main secret to a huge yield with minimal effort. So, in just 15 minutes, we haven't just prepared a garden bed, we've established a perfect, vibrant ecosystem ready to deliver an early and abundant harvest. The key shift here, the absolute game changer, is moving away from deep tilling or digging. The moment you realise that your soil isn't an inert substance, but a living, breathing organism, and you begin to treat it with care, your gardening results will skyrocket. You save time, save effort, and significantly preserve and boost your soil fertility. This truly is the paradigm shift that changes everything. You stop fighting the earth. Instead, you cooperate with it. And trust me, the soil will definitely reward your gentle approach. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching this video all the way through. I really hope this method turns out to be as much of a revelation for you as it was for me when I first tried it. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future gardening tips and tricks. Now, I have a question for all of you. What crops are you planning to sow this fall or winter? Share your experiences and plans down in the comments below. Let's start a discussion.